Okay, mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. This sounds like crap. How rusty am I? I haven't done this in long enough. That chord sounds weird. Oh, hey there, folks. This is your host, Kate Gaffney of Service from Hell, popping on to let you know that we're coming back. No need to worry. Romaine calm. Ha, we're coming back. So I have a bit of a cold. I had this for over 2 weeks. I'm real sick. Feel sorry for me. Listen, tell your friends to listen because you feel sorry for me. And also, the tour that I was on, the most chaotic tour of my life, is now gratefully over. I was happy to be a part of it, but also very glad that it was finished. It was insane, and I have a whole episode dedicated to that experience for another time. All of my friends and family, when I told them the stories of it all along, were like, there's no way that that's true, for the myriad chaotic experiences that I had in the 7 weeks that we were touring the lovely state of Ohio. But I have so many stories, and the cops are involved in some of them. That's how insane this tour was, and mismanaged and unorganized and chaotic. It was insane. But I learned a lot. We got to perform a ton, and it was really fun. So now I have no excuse for, not doing the podcast anymore. And so we're back at it, back with the interviews. I have a bunch of stuff scheduled over the next couple weeks and a lot of new comics that I've never met before who will be on. We're coming back next week with Josh Florhog, who is a hilarious comic who's very generous and smart and just has an incredible story to tell. And his episode, we will be dropping a little sneak peek of at the end of this episode, which will be quick. But yeah, we are coming back. We should be on a regular rotation of Mondays. So long as I drop whatever this cold, flu, whatever experience is, it's very fun. And it's just hanging around. So hopefully this wraps up soon and we can get back to a regular schedule. I super appreciate your patience and your listens and for continuing to share this. I will say that, and this is an episode for another time to talk about the tour in greater detail, but I am here to defend the millennials because we show up for work. And I just want to say, having worked with some Gen Zers on this last tour, we would be going to these places and performing in front of like 400 or 500 people. And some Gen Z members of the cast would decide if and when they were going to show up, including the morning we were at the theater getting ready to perform. They would just send a text like, not going to make it, LOL, or some version thereof. And I will just say, like, there are real things that keep you from working, but I'm from the generation where we play hurt, and it is wild to have witnessed and been a part of, and also been on the devastating receiving end of employees who just decide that they're not going to show up repeatedly and get paid the same as everybody else because this was a paid tour experience. And watching managers just kind of kowtow to them and say, sure, whatever you need, just so they wouldn't quit, only to have them quit a week before we were done. It was just the wildest experience to witness in the most competitive industry I've ever been a part of. Like, yes, we're not going for Academy Awards with what we were going after, but like we were on a state-funded paid tour of the entire state, funded by the governor's office, and some actors that are in the generation below mine just decided that they just weren't going to come to shows. And was, I gotta say, we keep getting dragged as millennials like, oh, they just don't ever want to go to work. Nah, I think we were the first generation that really put down boundaries of like, hey, I don't want to work 23 of the available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Like, I would like to have some sort of work-life balance. I feel like we were the first group to be like, we can all agree that's reasonable, right? And like, we wouldn't necessarily go to work when we were, limping or like, I don't know, devastatingly like hospital level sick. Gen Z, in my, we'll just say sample size of several of them, would just decide if and when they wanted to come to work. It was spectacular. I get it for a restaurant job because restaurant jobs are horseshit and they're so hard, and God bless anybody who works in them. I've done 1,000 of them, so I kind of get making up a reason to not come to work, even though it still screws over all of your compadres, and I've not ever done it. But I kind of get it more so than I get leaving an audience of like between 200 to 500 people just sitting around waiting, just wondering what the show's going to be like, and forcing someone to walk on stage with a script in hand whilst everybody else is like prepared and off book. It's embarrassing. Like, it's embarrassing. And I will just say, like, there's some jobs where, like, if you're at your telemarketing job, which also sucks and God bless, if you don't answer all of the phone calls that are coming in, they're going to talk to somebody else about how to fix their KitchenMaid appliance or whatever the hell. But if you don't show up for a performance where there are no understudies and you are on tour, meaning you are away from the theater's home base city and there's no one to replace you, and you just are like, oh, well, too bad, so sad, and all of the other actors are up there looking foolish, I can just say, it does make me really grateful that I was born when I was. Even when my knees creak, I'm still like, God almighty, I'm so grateful to be the generation before Gen Z, because good Lord, I have never been exposed to more, my fifis in my life than I was on this tour. It was wild, to the point where I was just so like, I just was so used to it that I would wake up every morning and I would text the group of the cast and just be like, who's showing up for the show today? Which is the wildest thing to have to text anybody ever. And yeah, that's a different episode for another time, but I would be remiss to have not mentioned it, because I got some DMs that were like, oh, why aren't you putting out episodes of the podcast? Like, can't you do it on your days off? Because we were getting like 1 to 2 days off a week. No, I didn't have the bandwidth. I was busy doing the like emotional and physical labor of 5 people, and it was too much. So no, I'm really sorry that we were not able to put out episodes, but as a one-man operation, it just wasn't possible to do it. But we're back. Thank you for those messages. Thank you for all of the support. Yeah, DM me for more details about the chaos that I was just a part of. It is unreal. Unreal is the only word I can think of. Anyway, like I said, next week is Josh Floorhog. We're going to have a bunch of comics coming up. Thank you to all the people that have recommended people, and to all the people that we've been able to interview. We have some backlogged episodes too. Those are coming. So if you're waiting for your episode to come out, I promise you it's coming. And find everybody on all the things, but first find us. If you're not already following us on Instagram, why not? It's at Service from Hell Podcast, and we would love a follow. We would love to interact with you there. And yeah, and if you're on Patreon, find us on Patreon /TheKate Gaffney. We got some tiers there for support. Thank you so much to our OG Patreon people and the people who have been there along the way. We're so grateful. Yeah, happy holidays, happy belated Thanksgiving, happy upcoming holidays. There's so many on the calendar. And yeah, hopefully 2024 brings you all the good things. But until then, take a listen to Service from Hell, tell your friends, and remember to tip your servers and tip your bartenders and tip your people. But don't, I'm going to have to amend this tipping notification sitch, because more and more and more and more places are asking for a tip. In fact, shout out to previous guest Pepperberry, who sent me a message about how he did this entire like transaction by himself. He went to the coffee station, filled it himself, checked himself out, went to the iPad to like fill out all the information, and it was like, would you like to leave a tip? You got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. For you to what? Flip the iPad around? Like we've lost the plot with that. So tip people that are in tipped positions. Don't tip people who are just being greedy. That's it. And remember, if somebody is working on a holiday, they're probably having a rough time with their families and or needed the time and a half money that is allegedly being given to them on that holiday day. So if you plan on utilizing those services on that day, make sure you tip accordingly. And also, don't be the jackass who's like, oh, people shouldn't have to work on holidays. And you really take that as a firm stance on socials. And then you go out and patronize any location at all that is not a gas station. If you are doing anything else and you think that people shouldn't have to work holidays, stay home. Stay home. Because if you're doing anything to participate in keeping those businesses afloat on holidays, that means those businesses are going to stay open on holidays. This is becoming a TED Talk. I don't care. It drives me nuts when I see people who are like taking this, oh, I'm so inclusive, I'm so awesome, take this huge stance. Like, people shouldn't have to work holidays. I feel sorry for them, blah, blah, blah. And then you see them out at a restaurant, or you see them out buying a t-shirt or whatever the hell they're doing. And it's like, which is it, ma'am? Which is it? Either you don't think people should work holidays, or you do. Also, shout out to Chase, who was the one Gen Z person I did work with on the tour, who did show up, played hurt, and was amazing. In case he listens to this, you were amazing, Chase. All right, everybody. Happy holidays. Take care. Do nice things for each other. We'll see you folks next week. Good night.
This was one time the girl stuck her hand down my pants. I was just like, no. And then I opened the wine and left. What later, me and another guy were talking, and we're like, yeah, that room was so crazy. And he goes, what if that dude was hidden in that room?
1,000%. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, they were not in the room by themselves.
They were in the living room, and the bedroom was facing, and the door was kind of shut.
1,000.
It probably wasn't shut at all. He was in there, and he wanted to see.
Correct.
That's what he was paying them for. That's why they kept ordering random stuff. And I didn't realize that until like months later.
Correct. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, well, he was for sure there. Like he had to have been, because there's a kink thing of like, seeing it,
voyeurism type thing.
Yeah, and also like,
but again, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and it's plausible deniability for him though as well, because if he sends them out to do the advancing, then there's no he gets to be like, well, it wasn't me. Whoo, technicalities, baby. That would have pissed me off. I would have been really, really mad about that, because your manager instead of giving you the speech, the manager should have been the one to do the drop off with you. He should not have sent you in there by yourself, because that is your word versus theirs. Like,
yeah, he had other stuff going on. He was going to come up with me, but I kind of explained the position of that hotel. Like, they were running on some sort of weird, like, we can give everybody 4 jobs for one budget. So he was the front office manager. So his job was to take the room service orders, watch people take room service orders, watch people check people in, and then had time to run up to me and be like, hey, this is going to be weird for you for the next little bit. I can't help you, but here's some advice. Bye.